Hello and welcome to the Orangecast, where we talk about stuff.
Um, uh,
2012.
oh shit, Krispy Kreme in the house, boys.
My name is Foster, and I'm joined by a few friends today. Let's introduce ourselves. Tell me what your favorite food is, along with your name, I suppose. Ryan.
Starting,
My name's Ryan. Hello. I would have to say my favorite food is pizza.
what a cop out.
It's a good
It's not a
choice,
cop-out,
though.
it's a way
good
of life.
choice. We'll go with the lady next to him.
That's you. I know.
Hi, I'm Claire, and my favorite food is. I'm gonna go with pancakes.
Ooh, that's a good one. Now, are they better for breakfast or dinner?
Both.
That's alright.
Which are they better for?
Fence sitter a little bit there. Let's go with the boy from Muncie.
Wow, thanks for giving me away my location like that.
Doxed. Entire city doxed.
My name is Theo, and I feel like my favorite food is like a perfectly cooked plate of hash browns.
What?
Yeah, dude.
That's so oddly specific.
It slaps. Like if you, yeah, you get it.
Okay. Then last is the other boy.
Ooh. Okay, so I'm Zach. I think my favorite food would be smoked brisket.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm sorry, what is a smoked brisket? Could you please explain?
Right.
Oh, wait. Let me explain. I work at a
eat lettuce.
Okay, so a smoked brisket is when you take a big old piece of meat called a brisket,
Okay.
and
This
you
is why
put
I'm
it
unfamiliar.
in a grill-like device where you put wood in one spot, and then the smoke from the wood burning.
So you
Kinda-
smoke it.
Essentially, yeah,
Okay.
and it creates this really, really good crust on the outside. So that way, when you cut it, it's nice and like super tender and delicious on the
Yeah,
inside. But
you see, Ryan, a smoked brisket is when you take a piece of brisket and smoke it.
That's the shorthand version.
There you go.
I like
Thank you.
hot wings. Anyways,
Yes.
we're gonna start with our first segment. I apologize. Cool stuff, and during cool stuff, we talk about cool stuff. I'm gonna start this week because I have an important thing to share, which is as of this episode going up on YouTube, we are now also on iTunes.
Oh,
You
hey!
can listen to us there. If you don't want to pay for YouTube Premium in order to listen to a podcast, you don't have to anymore. So that is awesome.
Hell yeah.
Ryan, give me a cool thing.
Less cool, more of a personal cool. This last week I got 4 wisdom teeth yanked out of my head, which really fucking hurts. But good news is I think recovery is going well. I can talk now,
Nice.
so I'm glad to be here.
Well, epic. Claire, give me a cool thing.
My cool thing is that this past week, Ryan and I watched the first season of a cool show on Netflix called The OA.
What is that
really
about?
Enjoyed it. It's about a girl who went missing for 7 years and just shows up suddenly, and she was blind when she goes missing, and when she returns, she has her sight, and it's her journey.
Interesting.
Short version.
It's cool.
A lot more to it, but it's really good.
Theo, give me a cool thing.
My cool thing is that when we were playing Rock Band last night, or Guitar Hero, pardon, I played The Metal by Tenacious D almost perfectly.
I love
Almost
D.
perfectly.
You didn't get the gold stars?
Not yet, no. I think we got like 4 stars, and it was incredibly difficult.
I'm proud of you, dude.
Thank you.
It's the best game.
Zach, cool thing.
So about a week ago, I started playing Hollow Knight, the big sleeper hit from, I think it was 2017, maybe.
Sure.
Sounds about right.
Sounds
But
right.
I bought it a long time ago, kind of just sat in my library, and decided to pick it back up and give it a chance. I'm not one for Metroidvanias, but this kind of proved different, and I love it. So check it out if you get the chance.
Yeah.
It is pretty good. I can vouch for that. All right. We are going to dive into our main segment today, and this one it's gonna be, you know,
It's gonna be a doozy.
it's gonna be a doozy. That's for sure. Because the question this week, guys, is do you believe in destiny or fate, and also do we have our own free will, or is it all predetermined? And I'm going to give this one to Ryan.
Oh, buddy, I was sure I was going to be picked for this. Okay, I just want to clarify. Are those two separate questions, or are we packing this all into one
It's
thick boy segment?
I think if you believe in destiny, that will change your answer to the second one. So it's kind of one big thing.
Okay. We should put those in the chat.
Yeah, I was about to ask you if you could do that.
Gotcha.
I just want to make sure I'm like answering the wording correctly. Dude, it's tough.
There you go.
I would say short answer to the question, yeah. But I guess you can hear in my voice like why I'm
to the first one?
Yeah. To the first part of the question, do you believe in destiny/fate? I think I would say yeah. But to answer the second part, do we have our own free will, or is it all predetermined? I think you don't have to parallelly associate destiny or fate with being predetermined. I think I would like to disassociate them and say I do believe in destiny or fate, but we do have free will. If I'm allowed to do that.
You are, but can you explain to me a little bit about how that would work then?
Well, I think in a really short surface level, speaking as like non-spiritually or religiously as you'll take this, I think everybody's kind of got a purpose of some sort, and that kind of destiny or fate are synonymous-ish with that to me. But I don't think everything is completely predetermined, because I think there are a lot of different choices, and every choice that anybody makes affects a lot of their life, obviously, but things around them. So I think the free will and choices are very important there, but I'd like to think like the purpose or destiny/fate, if you will, is still like, I don't know, the reason's going to be the reason regardless of like the choices and how you get there. But the choices can affect it. That's all.
Would you describe it as like a choose your own adventure book where all the adventures lead to the same spot?
That's a good way to explain it. I guess not the same spot, but maybe like a similar enough spot for like not the ending necessarily, but like the important spots along the way are gonna happen regardlessly. Kind of like you're gonna end up being whoever you are, and like regardless, if that makes sense. Just how you choose to get there and what you choose to represent and who you choose to interact with and whatever is free will, I guess. That's what I think now. I'm obviously open for like discussion. I think I'm not really like hard set on something here. I think it's really interesting. But yeah, I want to hear what everybody else thinks first too.
I want to say that this question is clearly going to be kind of tied to religion, so don't be like afraid to step on it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to hear what Theo has to say about that, actually.
Well, I'll have to disagree with you respectfully on the whole. Well, I guess it's not really disagreeing because it's my own belief. I don't personally believe in destiny or fate, because I think that we have our own free will. I think destiny or fate or anything, like that is really easy for people to believe in, because like it helps people cope with the problems of their life, if that makes sense. Because with like Christianity, you always, sometimes you hear, God has a plan, this is all part of God's plan, and that is usually used when said in a really tough situation, and I think for the purpose of helping people, get through life, get past hard, tough obstacles that they have to deal with in their own life, I think that's a great thing, but I do not personally believe in that because I feel like if I wanted to do something, then there's nothing really stopping me other than me just wanting to go do it. And if it's just something like a phase, even, that's my choice. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a comforting thing where I'm at in my life right now.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't like disagree with that. You know?
Should there be a God? Should he exist or not? I don't know. But people would say that he knows every choice that you're gonna make, right?
Sure.
So like, if there
In most
is
senses.
any higher power, not even just like the Christian God, but like, would they, if they're omnipotent, they know each of the paths that you could take? Would that still count as free will if they know each of the choices that you could have made?
I mean, it kind of depends on how much control you're allowing this.
I think there's a difference
this figure to
between a figure knowing what you're going to choose and
forcing you upon
correct.
Yeah.
If they just know what you're going to choose, then you still have free will. But if they're like, before anything's ever happened or anything, they're just like, yeah, he will do this. He will say this. That's different from being like, yeah, I know he'll say this. I know he'll do this. There's a small differentiation there.
I agree.
Spooky. At what point do we start introducing multiple dimensions into this? Do choices differ the paths? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I was thinking about that when you posed the question.
On any spot that you could make a choice would branch into a different reality, and there's no theory on that. Yeah.
Anyway, just a thought.
Well, Claire, what do you think about it? Do you believe in destiny or fate? Do we have free will? Are we predetermined?
So my immediate thought was to say yes, because I think it's something that, like, I don't know, we're almost like taught to believe in, or it's kind of like a thing. I liked what Theo said about people turn to that concept when they're in like a hard time, and I think that's super true. But I kind of hate when people, like, something tragic happens and people are like, oh, that, it's all in God's will or whatever. And I like have a hard time agreeing with that when it's like something tragic happens or some horrible person does something and it's like, yeah, but that's God's will. And it's like,
why would he will that on us?
Making a choice.
Yeah, and like that, I would guess would say we have free will because I don't know. I think if there was I'm not gonna like opinions on religion or whatever, but like if there was some divine being making all these decisions, like, I don't know, it's interesting because I think like a Christian would say we have free will, but they would also say that like fate is a thing that exists due to a God. And so it's like, but if we had free will but he was predetermining everything, like, we don't have that free will then, and if they believe that he can make all these decisions, like, why would any of these tragic things happen? I don't know. I think we have free will for sure, and I think that overall maybe not. Like, I don't know if I believe in it.
So at what point do we differ having free will and feeling like we have free will? Kind of relating to what you guys were saying earlier.
I think
did that make sense?
No.
Yeah.
Not to me.
Like,
the use of the word defer there kind of threw me off. I don't know what you meant.
Can I say what I think you meant?
Yeah.
I think what he means is like we perceive our life as making all of our own choices, but if there is a divine being who knows or has planned all this, and there just is a destined destination that you're going to get to, then you don't really have that choice. You're just like thinking you do.
Yeah, you gotta think, like, if we're talking about like this over knowledge of everything at all times, forever and forever in the past, like, your day-to-day choices already being known and taken into consideration for things like, quote, being planned for thousands of years in the future. Like, you think you're choosing to have Cheerios for breakfast, but in reality, like, thousands of years in the future have already Like that's already going to be known by the time does that make any sense? I'm
Are you saying
Kind of.
that's
I
what
think.
you think is true, or are you just saying that's
well, at what point do we we
Well,
put a differentiation between
that-
yes, we totally have free will and we think we have free will?
I don't think you can. Like, to be honest with you, I don't think you can.
That was the point I was trying to make.
Until someone can undeniably prove the existence of a higher being that
I mean,
pulls strings, then it's an unfiled. I mean, yeah. Can I make my piece real quick with the question
Yeah.
before we
Go for it.
delve too far? I'll start with I grew up very religious, and I would still say to a small degree I believe in a God, but I don't think I believe in God in the most traditional sense, and I think that I have a lot of call them issues, just things that don't really sit right with me, things that don't make sense, things that are paradoxical by nature, things that just go against the very teachings of a Christian God. But just I don't know. I also want to say that I'm very nihilistic, and that word kind of like that the nihilism teachings kind of have a negative view. Like I think one of the key terms often associated with nihilism, or like a synonym for nihilism, is pessimism, and I really don't like that because I think that's really unfair. I don't really think of nihilism as being pessimistic or even over logical, because some people will say that too. I look at it. I'm looking at this question in the text chat, and there's only one thing there that's not an unfalsifiable thesis, and that's free will. Because like the only thing that we know or can prove is free will, and until something bigger than ourselves is discovered, there's no way to
disprove it.
Well, I don't want to say something so simple as that, because by that standard we can't prove that destiny or fate doesn't exist.
True.
But we can prove free will exists. We can't prove the opposite until a higher being is discovered.
Well, I would say we can
can't
prove
destiny or fate,
right.
but we can't do either until a higher, like, you know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
Yes, but I think I would have to say I don't think we can prove free will exists. We can only prove our
correct in our own
interpretation of free will. That's what I was looking for.
Perception. Because
also, I'm sorry. Yes.
It's just like if I sit here and say in 5 seconds I'm going to raise my left arm 6 inches or something, you know, that you could call that destiny or fate, I guess. You could also call that free will. You could also call that predetermined.
Yeah.
All of the following fit.
I don't think you can prove or disprove any of them until you prove or disprove the existence of a higher power.
I could get behind even that. It's just I think that very similar to most of religion, period, worldwide. Buddhism might be one of the few exceptions. I mean, everything outside of maybe reincarnation, but you know, Christian theology, I mean, Taoism, all of it. It's all very unfalsifiable. It's the entire base of the world's religion set is, well, you can't prove it doesn't exist, and to me, you know, that doesn't really sit well, because you know, it's like saying, you know, oh well, I saw a pig fly to your friend, and your friend goes, no you didn't, that doesn't exist, and you're like, well, you know, you can't prove it I didn't see it.
I guess
so
that's true.
like
No.
it just
All you
it leads to
say
confusion, and
pigs are gonna happen. If they don't have a pig, then well, let's
Pixar
prove.
God isn't real.
I don't know. It's just, it's such a loaded question, and I think it's
Thick.
BS. It's just so loaded. I like to think that, I mean, as a nihilist, I like to think that all my decisions are mine, and that all of my gains in life are primarily made from my own past decisions, and the majority of my failures are based on my own past decisions. And to me, that really helps rein in variables. You're not questioning why or what you know. You can look back, you can retrospectively, assess a situation and be like, this is what caused this. There's no confusion.
I know in my upbringing, I definitely believed in predeterminism entirely. I was almost taught explicitly that, like,
Yeah, same.
we like, God knows everything. He knows that you were gonna do that. And I didn't. It was weird because, like, I wanted to believe that I was doing the right thing. Like, we were called to action in the church, so why even call us to action at all if you already know whether or not we're gonna do it? And it just felt like all paradoxical to me. So as a kid though, I just believed what I was told. But now that I have decided to make my own decisions, I do still kind of believe in fate, Like, I would like to think that when looking for true love in the world or something, everybody always says, like, you're gonna find the special person, And that is, in a way, like, hopeful, I suppose. Maybe hope is almost synonymous with destiny in my mind. But I definitely believe in free will now.
Yeah. I think we've kind of come to, like, the overwhelming agreement that, I don't know, I don't want to sit here and say we're all like, God ain't real because do what I want. But
we might lose our power.
Yeah, it is storming here too, so we're gonna just
storming like crazy here. Everything just...
Oh my god.
I just think it's way too easy to puzzle piece in destiny or fate for bad actions or mistakes, or and then kind of go back to what Theo was saying. I was sitting on the Monday morning sales team meeting that we do at this new job every Monday morning, and a woman named Christine, the head of administration, when we have like these pep talks and stuff, and it's kind of nice, but we talked about like possibilities or something was the key talking point, and she somehow managed to start talking about like her relationship with her estranged father, which, on a separate note, I don't see the connection of how one got to the other. But anyway, she started talking about how she hasn't talked to her father in like 20 years, and something happened. Her father came back, and he ended up being a douche and really made her upset. And all these years she had been feeling lost, and she, quote, had a hole in her heart. And then after he was a douchebag, and she was like, you know what? And then she said, God knew, and he took him out of my life because he knew the kind of person I would have been with him in my life for 50 years. And I'm just sitting there kind of like, huh? Like, I mean, sure, you might have been a worse person if he had been around you for 50 years, but that dude was just a tool. Like, you can't just go, like, there's also, because she was like, it was fate, it was destiny, he knew, it was predetermined. And I'm just like, nah, he was a douchebag. Like, and of course I didn't say that, but like, that's kind of how I'm feeling towards this.
It goes back to like, people use that during difficult stuff.
It's very easy to, because
some would call that lucky that he wasn't in her life,
because it pulls the consequence of action off of the the user, I guess, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
It's like it actually defers the consequences to somebody or something else.
Do you think
that can't be proven?
Do you think in a way we,
as oh my gosh.
Can you hear that? Yeah, we're like blinking in and out. So if we bail all of a sudden, go on without us, we'll find a way back in. I'm sorry. To try to stay back on topic, we need to put rain sounds in the back of this podcast, like the back of the whole thing, just to set the tone. Yes. What was I gonna say? Damn it! Do you think in a way people use like destiny or fate or a predetermined from a higher being to like you said, kind of defer their choices and mistakes?
Absolutely.
Or like better explain. Do you think, not to tie believing in destiny or fate to being religious, but I think in Western culture it's very synonymous in a lot of different cases. I don't want to generalize it, but I'm going to generalize it for the sake of conversation. Do you think people do you think that being a fact that we kind of agreed upon, or an idea that we kind of agreed upon, is like an indicator that people who are of that mindset, now I don't want to say religious, but religious, have problems dealing with their own consequences and mistakes?
Are you asking if like people make actions or decisions based upon the knowledge that whatever happens, it's predetermined?
No, but do you think people who realize they fucked up kind of use that's what's supposed to happen, or
like an excuse
almost as an excuse
because
they have problems dealing with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I also think it happens with people going into decisions, like something so simple as
y'all remember learning about manifest destiny?
Good example. Tithing to the church. Okay, you know, and I know this is kind of probably taboo to bad talk, but like my grandfather, who's a very traditional Christian, he's 75. You know, he's the kind of guy that actually goes by the book and tithes. I think it's like 10% of all income to the church. And he talked to me about 2 weeks ago when he was over for lunch. Might have actually just been like a week ago, but I mean, very recent. And he goes, yeah, you know, I kind of wish you guys would tithe a little more. And, you know, set aside the point that I think that's a little intrusive upon one's personal stuff. But anyway, he was like, yeah, I really wish you kids would tithe a little more. You know, I think it would be better for you guys. And maybe it would be, you know, kind of like an emotional or spiritual uplift to know that you're giving back to something. But his reason for it was, if you give money to the church, God will take care of you. Okay. Maybe. But he was like, yeah, we never had much, but we always made sure to tithe, and God took care of us. And I was like, well, I mean, that's no different than gambling, because you know that God will take care of you. You know, I know that doesn't seem quite one-to-one, but like, you could just be throwing your money in a trash can and walking away saying, oh, well, guy in a book told me to do so because he spoke with God, and so now God will take care of me.
I think that's a super interesting idea, because I said earlier, maybe that woman viewing her father not being in her life as good predetermined destiny shit from a higher being, and some people would just consider that lucky. When Claire and I went to Southeast Asia, people didn't go to God church and pray and give money for good luck, but they went to Buddha statues and gave money for literally good luck, not to make God take care of you. So that's weird that they on both sides of the world are ending up being similar things.
Yeah, it just blows my mind that you're putting yourself behind financially,
right?
Hoping or going on the knowledge based on your religion that God has a predetermined end for you, and he'll take care of you through until that end. Regardless, you just have to give him money, right? Obviously that's a very watered down version of it. I know that.
And
I think everyone here knows that.
People believe in that because there's an entire book of the Bible dedicated to a story about a man who gave everything to God every day and
Yes.
God literally just killed everybody he loved because that was the predetermined plan for him, because it essentially made him prophesize to people, you know.
I mean, it on the note of also being paradoxical to the Bible, it also is very implicitly told that, you know, material possessions, you can't buy your way into heaven, right? And I know the act of giving your money is like giving up a part of yourself. You're giving up something that you could have had, right? That's the act, it's not the financial aspect, but it's the giving. It wouldn't matter what the giving is, but the idea that somebody's, you know, giving because they think it's going to help them in stance with God, I think it's paradoxical to me. It's just like you're trying to buy help, right? So then why is it predetermined?
Oof.
If it's going to happen.
That's, yeah.
Why do you need to buy? Why do you need to tithe? Why do you need to go to mass? Why do you need to, and you know, those are all questions I think a good Christian may not ask, but I kind of started off saying I'm not a very good Christian, so, or just a very unique brand of Christian, I guess. So I have a lot of questions, and I think this bloomed into a lot of that territory. So,
which is totally fine. I'm down to talk about it.
Talk about your feelings.
In my father's church, at least the last one, I haven't been to the current one in a while, he always said, give what you can, but if you can't, just give us your time. You know, come volunteer, help us out. We don't expect your money. We just want some help, and we want some community. And so I think that was a good way to do it, but I think the traditional church is all about tithe 10%. And
I hate that.
That is strange to me.
It's so backwards to me. It blows my mind. But yeah, good questions. Good answers. I mean, mostly from me, but hey, you guys are good too, I guess.
They were thinking that they want to add.
I just think this is interesting how closely we're tying it with religion, because I think there are other aspects than just like religious beliefs to tie into it a little bit.
If you have any examples, I'd love to hear them.
Before we move on, Theo, are you sitting on anything? I know you've been like...
I mean, no, not really.
Okay.
I feel like I expressed how I felt pretty well. Everything that's been said, I haven't had any problems with. You know,
okay.
Everybody, I've shared an opinion with someone who has talked pretty much this entire time.
I think, for the most part, I think we're all kind of like, there's definitely some like gray area. Like a large portion of this whole thing has been like something we can all kind of agree with for the most part. Claire, are you sitting on anything?
Probably a chair.
A chair.
Nice. But I started off this whole thing by saying, like, I think I do believe in destiny or fate, but I also believe in free will. And it sounds like, for the most part, we kind of associated destiny or fate with, like, if that exists, it's only provable by a higher being and them being very closely correlated, which I guess to make total sense.
I kind of thought about it a little differently, where I think I do believe in fate, but fate is just hope for a better future for me.
Right. Yeah, and maybe that's where I want to take it, because I think I like I said, do believe in destiny or fate to some extent. But I'm also on the free will, not necessarily predetermined path. And we kind of brought together like, nah, but if it's destiny or fate, it has to be God and it has to be predetermined. And that seems kind of silly. X, Y, or Z, we all gave our opinions on that, which I don't disagree with. So maybe we can disconnect the two, just for the sake of conversation, like Foster was bringing it in. Is destiny or fate in the context of like hope or finding love, I guess, or becoming who you're going to be as an individual, or like who you impact, who you meet in life and how that impacts and how you impact them. And because choices to interact with people could be argued as free will. And
I got a good one.
Okay, hit it, dude.
Okay, so have you guys ever heard of the sister particle theory?
No.
I've
I'm
heard of it,
unfamiliar.
but I would not be able to hold a conversation about it.
Explain for the case. Of the
Okay, layman's terms. Yeah, and I'm kind of similar to Foster. It's not like I've studied it or anything, but I mean, watered down. There are. I don't think it's actually called sister particle, but it's kind of the idea.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Particle.
Pretty much. So,
Okay.
in the cosmic universe, there are billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of particles. I don't know if you guys have heard the rap battle, but there's billions. And
A lot of them.
so some of these particles, these atoms, actually attract each other over the span of the cosmos, because I don't know how it works, but two particles on opposite sides of the infinite universe can attract each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen here on Earth. And so I think you could even make a scientific theory that is what predetermined love is, kind of like who you're going to meet. So
e-dating has really gone to the next level.
Well, okay. Ryan and Claire, do you believe that you guys were meant to find each other?
Ooh.
I think so, for the sake of clarity there. But yeah.
Thanks, dog. What do you think?
The peanut gallery.
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
Put him on the spot like that. I guess
I would like to believe that. Yes. I don't know. There are a ton of different arguments, and people obviously like get remarried, and everybody thinks it's supposed to happen when it does. So that's tough. But short answer, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well,
but it's not just as easy as like that's the person, so everything's gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there's where free will, and that is not necessarily synonymous.
Yeah, I think getting to your fate, or even holding on to it, because I don't think your destiny or your fate is ever going to be the end point of your life.
Right.
It's just like your purpose. You're supposed to get here. But I think to get there or to hold on to it, you have to have a lot of your own determination, in a different sense of the word. Like you have to persevere through a lot, and you have to make all the right choices. So I think that is a combination there of free will and getting to a destiny. So yeah, I definitely do think I believe in both of those there.
Is destiny changeable?
Huh. Well, that's like asking if you can go back to the past and change the future,
I suppose. But can your own free will, like, are we able to get on a boat for a second that your own free will could possibly change your destiny? Because that mixes things up a little bit. I just want to know if we're all from the perspective of like destiny is 100% concrete from all stances.
I would.
Because I thought that's what we have been so far, and this is a little bit different of a question. I just wanted to know.
I would kind of hope not, but
I don't really like I said earlier, I don't really believe in fate or destiny to begin with. But
is it because you think it's concrete? Sorry.
What? No, I don't think anything's concrete. That's why I don't believe in it.
Okay.
I think if you're gonna have a destiny or a fate, then you have like a set boundary you can go within choice-wise before, like, no matter what you do, it won't matter. Like if my destiny, an example, if my destiny is to go fill up my water bottle in 20 minutes, me standing up for 15 of those 20 minutes isn't going to change the fact that I'm going to go get some water. And that was technically free will. So I think if you're believing in destiny, it kind of depends on what restrictions you're putting yourself, on your own choices that you can make.
Do you think it's possible for there to be multiple destinies?
I don't know. It's hard to theorize about something that I don't really believe in personally.
They've released 2 at this point. So.
I don't know.
Plans for the 3rd one confirmed.
I had to make the pun at some point. Sorry.
Right. I was thinking it this whole time. Plus, there's a DLC, so like you branch off in different destinies. It's interesting. So we come from like not changeable in the sense of this conversation, I think.
Yes.
I don't.
That's where I'm at.
I don't think that destiny would be changeable, but I really wish that I could, if that makes sense.
You think no matter how hard you try, you're gonna do and be what you're gonna do and be no matter what?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that like I am making my own path. I am forging my own way.
Right.
And I want to do this, so I'm going to do it. But if that's the choice I make, then is that endpoint my destiny? Was it the whole time? I have no way of knowing. So
big spook.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
why I like copping out and saying all of it's mine, even the failures. So it just keeps a limited scope.
Right.
You don't have to worry about anything like that.
A lot of this is depending on your scope, you know?
Yeah.
This is relating to something I branched off with earlier, because maybe it's time to bring it back to spice up the conversation a little bit. So we're talking about choices and them affecting or not affecting your destiny. And we briefly talked about, like, theoretically, if we want to touch on like the multiple dimensions theory, every time there's an opportunity to make a choice for whatever, things branch off, right? Hang with me for a second. So obviously, because it happens in sci-fi movies, it's true. It is like, I just want to know your thoughts hypothetically. Like, if you're supposed to, like, let's assume that it is our destiny to find that person that's like true love or whatever for just a moment. In this this reality, that's your destiny, you find them. But like in a situation where there was a choice to, I don't know, maybe you meet them online and you chose to not get online or match with that person or whatever, but like you go to a parallel dimension and they're like somehow still in that character's life and important no matter what, and they met regardless of that choice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there a case, and what do we think there, and where the difference is at? I just want to hear some thoughts on it theoretically.
I think theoretically, in each different universe, there could be a different fate for each person.
Completely different, and like not
correct, but that could be predetermined.
It could only be slightly different, but it would be different. But
Yeah,
that would be predetermined for that version of myself.
Have you guys ever? This is definitely a rabbit hole of
yes,
of course. But have you guys ever seen the Jimmy Neutron episode where they go to an alternate universe where like Jimmy is evil and Sheen is like, everyone that's nice is super evil and the teacher is like the kindest woman ever?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the one where Mega Overlord Sheen?
No,
brain Sheen.
I'm pretty sure that's the Pants episode.
Correct. I think this is different from the Pants episode.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that when you take a look at alternate realities in that sense, where your universe your universe is the base set for anything, and then everyone else, it kind of goes with what you guys were saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're predetermined from what you can tell. You know what I mean? Because by what they're seeing is alternate versions of themselves.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is alternate versions of ourselves. So I think it's kind of hard to theorize alternate realities because
absolutely. I was just
multiverse
of all the things that could be possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think you can sum it up pretty quickly by analyzing predetermination and multiverse, right? So if the multiverse accounts for every situation, there's a verse where predetermination does not exist. But by that statement alone, it's backwards. It's predetermined that predetermination does not exist. The entire thing falls flat on itself. So it's my mind's bending way too much thinking about this. So,
and we are pretty deep into our time. So as much as I would love to keep talking about this because it is awesome, I'm going to cut us off, and we'll probably get back into it with the second question. It's kind of related. But real quick, we're gonna
Hey,
do a
brothers.
little light refresher break and move on to some light stuff real quick. We're gonna go to fact time, and in fact time, we each share a fun fact. And we will start with Theo.
Yes. All right.
That
Did
was
you
creepy.
guys know that the inventor of the frisbee was cremated and made into a frisbee after he
Yes,
died?
I knew that. That's the weirdest shit ever.
I know, right?
It's like, have you seen the thing where you can get your ashes turned into a record?
That's amazing.
It's gonna be like that, where like people can play me while I'm dead, just like they did while I'm alive. You know?
Damn.
My record would just be me screaming.
No. Why would you? Was he that proud? Anyway.
Zach, give me a fun fact.
One of the most crucial ingredients to dynamite is peanuts.
Really?
Whole ass peanuts?
Yep.
My
Well,
dude.
maybe not whole peanuts, but peanuts are one of the key ingredients to dynamite.
Well, next time I'm making
Interesting.
dynamite.
I would be interested to learn more. Claire, give me a fun fact.
Apparently, trees are capable of exploding if they freeze to the point that the sap inside of them, like there's water in the sap, and they can freeze to the point that a tree can explode.
Nice.
Wow.
So,
I really wish you would have just left it at apparently trees can explode.
Who would've
period.
thought?
Chilling.
No explanation.
Ryan.
Yes.
Man, speaking of these explosions of fun. Okay, big nerds. This is an important day in history. I'm going to give you some League of Legends fun facts. My favorite team, Cloud9, has defeated their opponents, and they'll be representing me and other big nerds in the League of Legends Summer Finals, and I just found out they're going to play Team Liquid
Nice.
because TLB clutch, and they beat CLG. Big sad because we were originally planning on maybe buying tickets and going up to Detroit, but I guess I'll just have to watch it alone. But I'm happy.
If I would have been
Literally
able to
don't
get the
have to.
days off, totally would have gone. But,
It's
I
fine.
already said I'm coming up. Down.
Well, then let's do it.
my fun fact is that Antarctica is actually the biggest desert in the world, which is interesting because people usually think of deserts as being hot, and it's not very hot there. But it doesn't get enough precipitation, so it's considered a desert.
Antarctica. It's not very hot there.
That's going to be
That's
on
the new
Foster's
slogan.
record.
On every postcard. Now we're gonna do a shorter
Wait.
segment. What?
Never mind. Sorry.
We're gonna do a shorter segment called "Who Would Rather," where one of us presents a either "Would you rather" or "Who would win" question, and we're gonna only give it to either me, Theo, or Claire. So let's find out who it's gonna be.
I've already gone, and it was not good. So if it's me, I defer it to Claire. that the
It's
right
me
word?
today.
Oh,
Interesting.
Good.
Okay.
all right. Lay it on us.
Would you rather spend a week locked in a room that is constantly bright or constantly dark?
How bright?
How dark.
Okay, it is pitch black and like staring at the sun.
What the fuck?
Pitch black.
Yes.
I'm going to spend most of my time sleeping and being sad. I'd rather sleep to pass the time than be blind by the time I get out.
Okay, it won't blind you, but it's very bright.
Dark.
Dark still.
I think same.
We are all really, like, open to accessing our dark cave dwelling side, so we're going to come out looking like fucking Batman, and we're okay with that. I've been in here for 7 days.
I feel like I would go crazy with just like straight 7 days of absolute blackness.
Well, I think it's because of the way you're connotating dark. Could you explain your cackling?
He didn't say darkness. He said blackness. He thinks he'd go crazy with 7 days of blackness.
I think I would.
Okay,
I
Foster.
think I would be a better person with 7 days.
I
of
think
blackness.
that's a Freudian slip right there.
Have you guys actually like looked into some Freud stuff?
Yeah.
All fucked.
Studied him for a year.
It's all fucked.
Well,
Anyway, yeah, I'm still picking dark.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to go with dark also.
all right. I guess I'm on
So
my own with
Foster's
this one.
the only light side one. We're all nocturnal.
Who will
Not
probably
light.
be played at that League of Legends tournament. Now
Probably
we're gonna
not.
move on to our second main question. It's kind of tied to the first one, and that's do you think there's
no.
life after death? We are going to start with Theo.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so
Yep.
I have a really, really interesting thought on the
Okay.
idea of life after death. Because personally, I don't really know. Like, well, obviously, nobody knows. That's a stupid way to put it. I don't
Yeah.
think that there's life after death. I don't really know what there would be. Like, I can't conceptualize anything at this
Nobody
point.
can.
And like normally I'd be really concrete in that stance, but when my grandma was, getting towards the end of her days, she would often tell my mom, she would go, "There's a line, and I'm waiting to get into heaven." And like, you could say, "Oh, well, she's, getting ready to pass away. She's kind of not thinking straight," but the idea that my grandma was like, she has said multiple times, she's like, "Oh, I'm about to go see God. I'm so excited. I've been waiting my entire life for this. I'm waiting in line. There's too many people. I just want to go. I want to be there with God." Like, that's just such an interesting thought to me because it kind of redefines the way that I think about that. Because my grandma was like, I look up to what she did in her life and what she, accomplished. I look up to that and I revere her greatly because she has been like, she spent her life devoted to helping others. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And so I think it's plausible that for her to have seen something similar to a heaven or interacted with something similar to a God, I think it's kind of crazy it kind of makes me think there could be something after life. And so I'm split. I'm torn between which side to go on.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine nothingness, and none of us are able to. So I have to, just because of my inability to fathom that, I just kind of have to believe in something. I would like to believe in reincarnation more than like an afterlife, just because I love the idea of getting a chance to do better, and maybe people always say you don't remember that in Buddhism culture and all that, but you have deja vu of your last time and you think about things like that. I would like to I take comfort in the idea that I might have the chance to fix my mistakes in the future.
Fair enough.
I can
Okay.
hop in if you want to think.
It's really tough.
I'm gonna take a shot at this one. Okay.
Nope.
Do I believe in an afterlife? Okay. I'm gonna start it off by saying I would certainly fucking like to believe that there is something like I hope, but I think that's different from belief. I think I like to come from the perspective of like purely logic a lot of times because I find it comforting. And from that point of view, no. But that also absolutely terrifies me. Like the thought of dying in nothingness is really, really scary. Personally, I think I've always kind of struggled with thinking about that. So I logically no, but I would also really, really like to and hope that there's something. That being said, I think no offense to your grandmother, Theo. I'm not trying to say anything toward that, but I think sometimes maybe that style, or maybe not style, but that sort of belief, as if it's okay, I've been waiting my whole life to do this, something better is coming, that sort of idea is not necessarily what I want to personally have, and not what I think is good, because I don't think what we have right now and everything that we're given should be taken for granted, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like there's like something good is going to happen on the other side.
I'm putting my quarter on the arcade machine right now.
I do think it's interesting that you used the word or the phrase "the things were given." Like,
Yeah. Just the opportunities we have and everything that comes with life. I think, to me, when I hear people talk about the afterlife and it's going to be so great and God this and meeting this person, I just think like they're completely disregarding and almost disrespecting what life is and how valuable life is, because I hate when people disvalue life. So maybe I don't believe in it, just because I have that like a really hard time when people devalue life.
I don't want to cut Zach's quarter, but I just want to say I don't think that people are always necessarily devaluing it. I think that it's just a way for them to grasp death, for them to cope with it, you know.
Well, maybe it's the fact that that's just my reaction to hearing that, so maybe I don't.
Zach,
I don't know.
What you got?
Okay, so, big question, do I believe in an afterlife? Yes. 100%. Actually. And now to the more important half of my answer. I almost hope it doesn't exist.
Interesting.
Which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people shoot for. And this isn't just me going against the grain.
No, we've talked about, I think, what you're going to say in the past.
The idea of everlasting life is as unfathomable to me as pure nothingness, right? Both scare me beyond comprehension because of the lack of comprehension. Both scare me. And I think the only comfort that I can find in an everlasting life after death is maybe it's some kind of never-ending dream. And even if you say nothing bad happens, nothing bad can happen, only good things, you know, you get to be with, it scares me. Yeah. Because then there is no variation in your life, and you may not even know it. But that also goes in part with the does it exist, does it not exist? You know, the whole, like, you may not even know that you're spending an eternity in a never-ending dream. You know, you may not perceive that in an afterlife, but while I'm living, that scares the hell out of me. At least if I'm dead and gone, period, no nothing, just pure void.
Yeah.
After death, there is nothing. You don't care, you don't fear, you don't love, you don't lust, you don't expect things, you don't. And the idea of, I wouldn't quite say devaluing things while you're alive. I think it's good to look forward to something and maybe just kind of push through it because, you know, you're scared of death. But I think, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of getting choked up because when my grandmother died, I cried. I mean, I cried. I think a lot of people cry when their grandparents died, but I cried on a separate occasion one night when I was thinking, after her death, I was kind of like, I wonder where she's at. And I know that's kind of a loaded, kind of dumb question, but it's like, can I imagine her in a heaven? Can I imagine her in nothingness? And when I imagined that nothingness, I started bawling because it scared me, but it scared me more that someone I loved is, I mean, in the most pure sense, nothing. Never existed. Gone. doesn't exist, nothing. And that scares the hell out of me. But I found comfort in the fact that if that's true, who knows? No one does. You don't care. You're gone. And I almost envy that. And I know that's kind of heavy, but
I think the traditional idea of heaven kind of, to agree with Zach a little bit, kind of sounds like it sucks to me a little bit. I mean, if you can't do anything that's considered bad by the good Christian standards at all, or maybe it's not Christian, I don't know, but that's just the way I've always thought about heaven, would be the Christian God up there, because that's what I was taught, you know. But like, you can't.
There's no growth.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't make a mistake and grow from it.
There's nothing to make you feel like anything's happening, you know. Maybe I just feel happy all the time, but if you feel happy all the time, like,
is that happy?
You never know you're high unless you're feeling low, you know?
Yeah.
You don't know happiness without sadness, so I can't perceive how that would work, so it just sounds like bad to me, which is...
And if you're conscious for an eternity, I'm going to tell you that even if you're in heaven, that's hell. I'm just like, there is no end. You're just like, let it end. Even if you're happy all the time, that's just not the way it works. That's scary.
Claire, what do you think?
Oh man,
Feeling sassy today.
Sorry. I don't freaking know how I feel about this. I guess it's really hard to not like tie in religion to this kind of stuff, because like, as seems like quite a few of us did, we grew up in a Christian home, so that like is what I grew up knowing and understanding. And I've always struggled with this concept of like heaven and hell kind of thing, and like the fact that some people earn the right to this, you know, this great afterlife, and other people don't. And so I guess I hope if there is an afterlife, I hope it's fair, and I hope that everyone gains access to it. I hope it's not based on, I don't know, because, you know, there's shitty people in the world, and do they deserve the same joyous afterlife, if that's what it is, as others? I don't know. But I don't know. I guess my thought process behind it too is like, I was thinking earlier, like, well, to be honest, we have absolutely no memory, and it's not a terrifying thing, but like, we have no recollection. I can't say that word. No memory of like our lives before we were here. You know what I mean? And like, right. I don't know. Like, did our souls exist? Like, if you believe that is a thing, like, did they exist before our physical bodies existed? And if so, like, we don't have no memory of that. Like, we don't, you know. So it's like, if that's just what happens too, like, we probably will have absolutely no idea, like, that's happening. You know?
Right. Like I said, I wanted to believe in reincarnation, and if I do, then I probably existed previous, which means I should be doing things better this time, and I'm really fucking that one up. But maybe that's something I should think about, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think reincarnation's more of a beautiful concept, personally, than just an afterlife.
Yeah, well, you have also said before that you think souls are unique.
Also true.
So there's a tough one for you.
Well, I think it's the same soul in a new body, right? Isn't that the idea of reincarnation?
I suppose. That's a whole lot of stuff I haven't really necessarily thought about to talk about how I feel.
That makes it, like, that's really interesting to think about, because it makes your body,
I do believe,
really become just like a shell.
Yeah.
I do believe Buddhists actually say mind, not spirit. And I think there's a small difference in the Buddhist faith. So
yeah.
that'd be something to look at. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I also don't think I'm Buddhist, but...
No,
right.
but I'm just saying that
yeah.
I think Buddhism is one of the most
well-known.
reincarnation focused
Yeah.
religions worldwide.
Yeah.
It's just kind of to pick the minds of some people that practice that. It's kind of cool. I didn't mean to cut away from your stuff. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't have like a super solid opinion on it. Basically,
It's hard.
I really hate the idea of like, I don't know, like I said, I can't help but tie it to religion, and I just can't get behind the concept that this like heaven is only accessible to people who believe in this faith and follow these guidelines and these steps, because I just think about people who, I don't know, we spent time in Southeast Asia where like the culture is Buddhism. Like that is just what those people are born and raised into, just like it's common here to be born and raised into like a Christian home. And I just don't think, like, I don't know, based on the Christian beliefs, like those people wouldn't make it into heaven. And I think like that's
stupid. If all that's predetermined, like Buddhism and Taoism,
yeah, like,
that's a
and
dick.
I just can't get behind the idea that like these people, don't get access to this same, I don't know.
Which I guess is something I kind of said earlier, is like the call to action, which I guess that's why he would have a call to action, is so he's like, hey, go tell them or they gonna die, and they gonna die bad. But
yeah, I've always, that's like a whole nother topic. I've always had a hard time with the idea of like, it's your job to save other people, and basically you're right and everyone's wrong, and you gotta go tell them. I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me.
That is a lot of the reasons for war in the world.
Yep.
True.
I think a flaw with many religions on this topic.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not very fun. I think it's innately tied to theology, just because, I mean, if you take a more scientific route, that scientist is going to be like, yeah, he dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah, he dead. Like, I think the most you'd ever get from a scientist is basically like, oh yeah, I mean, after you're technically dead, you're still releasing chemicals in your brain, and even though you're not living technically, you are still in a euphoric dream kind of sense, right? So like, you may not even be conscious of your dream, but you're still dreaming, if that makes any sense. So that would be about as far as a scientist would probably ever take it, which is why if you want anything further, you kind of have to go to theology. So I think it is kind of just a religious question. So unless you're the guy that says, nah, when you stop breathing, you are dead, that is it. Then sure, maybe it's not religious.
I think these questions are only tying in so hard with religion because it's not factually backed. Like, nobody knows, so people turn to that for their answers.
Right.
So yeah.
And I think it is interesting that we all kind of land on similar things on this, because I think we were all raised in a similar way. At least me, Zach, and Claire, I know were raised in Christian homes. I think, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but your family isn't particularly religious, but probably went to church occasionally?
Yeah, I'm enough to identify with you guys.
And then Theo, I don't think was raised in a church from a young age, but then, eventually found it and participated in it.
Well, my mom took me to church a bunch throughout my entire childhood. I just have my own opinions, just like you guys. I have my own opinions, and it wasn't as big of a part in my life as it was for you guys.
But something was present.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't like it was like a very loose church attending type thing.
Yeah, Foster was born in, grew up in, raised in, ate in, crapped in the church. Like,
yeah.
I was kind of the guy that, my parents' were super religious, and so my parents by proxy felt like they needed to be religious, and that eventually kind of got phased out. But for the majority of my childhood, they kind of just took me to church because they wanted a child to have the upbringing in a church, regardless of what they think I may have believed in. So I don't know. I'm somewhere between like you and Foster.
Oh, I'm glad you were. I'm kind of glad you were there, part of that, because FMC would have sucked without somebody to talk to after the services were over. So
There's just a bunch of 90-year-old people huddling in groups talking. It was really awkward as a 7-year-old.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah, but well, any final thoughts?
yeah, I did realize we didn't actually do our final thoughts on the first one, but that's okay.
I mean, we basically get them with this.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to give final thoughts on something we did for 50 minutes.
All right.
It's tough. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I think that's good timing because they just lost their power, I think.
That's funny.
So,
Yeah.
There it is.
we will we'll patch in some final thoughts from them later, but just real quick, you two, Theo, what do you think about this whole thing? Just sum it up for me real quick.
I don't believe in destiny or fate, and I think we have our own free will. And if there is death, like life after death, then I don't have an opinion either way, if that makes sense. Like, regardless of its existence or not, I don't really care, if that makes sense. If it exists, heck yeah. If it doesn't, oh well. I'm indifferent to the existence of something after life.
Okay. Zach, what do you got?
Screw it. Live your life like there is no afterlife. You know, make your decisions as if you have to bear all of the rewards and all of the consequences. That's kind of how I feel. Fully free will. Zero predetermination, no afterlife. Just this is what you got, live it.
I kind of live under the impression that I should kind of choose to be a good person because if there is an afterlife, I want to get there, and if there isn't, you know, all right, at least I was a good person. But like that way, you know, I'm covered, got my bases covered.
Right.
I'm gonna leave a spot of silence right here. Ryan, what are your final thoughts on the second question here? Like, do you believe in an afterlife?
I think I would like to believe in an afterlife, but not being able to prove it really scares me. And I don't want to let believing in an afterlife let me devalue the importance of life that I have right now.
Solid. Claire, what do you think?
I think overall, I would say something similar. I would hope that there is something, but I also hope that it's fair and inclusive. And what was the other part? Nothing more?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. And yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Okay. That was Ryan and Claire's thoughts. Thank you. We're going to have another one of these up next week. We'll be on iTunes and Facebook as well as the VOD on Twitch. Remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share wherever you find this platform. And, well, we'll see you next one.
Oh my